Hi everyone, I'm PP, probably the best Indian Nuzlocker on YouTube. In this video, I will be going over my attempts at doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Renegade Platinum, which is a ROM hack created by Drayano based on the original Pokemon Platinum. The game includes all 493 Pokemon up until Generation 4, while updating their movesets, abilities, and in some cases their stats as well. All trainer fights are also buffed to make them more challenging. I'm very excited to play this game and can't wait for the change of pace after my two Pokemon Fire Red Monotype Nuzlockes. As a reminder, in a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it meets its demise. Additionally, my rules for a hardcore Nuzlocke are on screen now. I also request you to please hit the like and subscribe buttons as they help out immensely and only take up to 5 seconds of your time. Let's get on to attempt 1. For my starter, I picked Chimchar and named him Moxley. The reason for picking him over Turtwig is that we get one of the two remaining starters as a legal encounter later anyway, and by picking Chimchar here, I ensure that neither Barry nor Dawn have an Infernape to deal with later on. The downside of this is that the first fight against Barry is quite challenging, and stupidly, I did consider it part of the Nuzlocke despite most people not doing so. I then proceed to lose this fight 4 times in a row. By this point, I've realized that the only way to win is to get a lucky burn from Ember early on, and in attempt 5 I get it. Barry is finally beaten and I'm off on my Redshow. My mom gifts me an Eevee named Jericho, who will be great as an Umbreon later on. I've also gotten incredibly lucky with Moxley, as in this attempt he has the ability Iron Fist, along with an attack boosting nature and 27 attack IVs. I catch a Nidoran named Charlotte and get Turtwig and Piplup. The former is named Brawn and has the ability Shell Armor, which makes him one of the best Pokemon in the game. I didn't realize that using both Turtwig and Piplup was incorrect here, so you'll see the latter being used a couple of times before the first gym, but he made no discernible impact to the run, so I'm not fussed. I catch a Zigzagoon named Miz, a Starly named Nikki, hatch a Tyrogue named Ricochet, catch a Magikarp named Danielson, a Badoo named Shotzi, and a Zubat named Bray. Up next is another fight with Barry, but Brawn and Charlotte make quick work of him. I do already think that Barry is the most annoying rival in the entire series. I catch a Bidoof named Otis and evolve Moxley into a Monferno. I also catch a Geodude named Rock, deposit Cena the Piplup into the box, and evolve Shotzi into Roselia. The final encounters before Rourke are Brock the Machop and Joe the Beldum, who is gifted to me by Steven. I accidentally faint Whismur, who is another encounter, but I don't think that matters at all. Otis evolves into B-Barrel and I'm finally ready for the first gym. I lead with Moxley to taunt Rourke's Snow Spas and prevent it from using Stealth Rock. His only attacking move is Shockwave, so I switch in Shotzi and put him to sleep. I can now set up a couple of growths and sweep using Mega Drain to win the gold badge. That was easy, but it will get tough soon. Barry annoys me again, but I do get to team with the better rival, Dawn, to defeat the Galactic Trunks with ease. My next encounter is a Ralts, who obviously teleports before I can catch him. I do obtain a Squirtle named Rowan and catch a Voltorb named Nox and a Seedot named Spice. Up next is a fight with Commander Mars. Moxley takes out Zubat and Bronzor, but Yanma protects and now outspeeds so could kill with a crit air slash. I switch to Joe, who can use a couple of Iron Heads to take her out. But Ugly is walled by Rock, so he takes her out. Ray evolves into Golbat and I catch a Mareep named Kevin. I can then get a Totodile named Wardlow, who gets the ability Intimidate and the Dark type when he evolves into a Croconaw. Up next is a fight with Cheryl, but Bray, Shotzi and Moxley make quick work of her Pokemon. Cheryl decides to accompany me for the remainder of the forest and... So on a forest encounter, we get a Murkrow. It's cool. Yep. You idiot, Chansey! Does that count? Anyway, I catch a Shuppet named Mercy and then Barry runs into me like an idiot. I catch a Meditite named Shayna and Cynthia gives me the HM for cut. I fish up a Feebas named Bailey and accidentally faint a Swinub. Lots of missed encounters already. I evolve Bailey into the Water Fairy type Milotic. I won't be going over all evolutions now as there's a lot of them. I'm ready to face Gardenia. Sadly, I lose Nikki to one of her gym trainer's Glooms because I didn't estimate the damage from Aerial Ace correctly. Death number 1 is on me. Gardenia time, and I lead with Bray, who can one-shot Bellossom with Poison Fang. Roserade comes in and barely survives a Wing attack before using an extra sensory which would have definitely gotten the kill if it crit. Bray can take out Roserade with another Wing attack as Tangler comes in. Through some pivoting between Charlotte, Jericho and Shotzi, I can set up a couple of layers of Toxic Spikes and Spikes, while having a healthy Shotzi out as Tangler goes down despite getting the 10% Ancient Power boost. Cherim comes in and takes great damage from Sludge. I switch in Moxley on a Weather Ball and take her out with Fake Out and the incoming Trottle out with Flame Wheel under the sun. Breloom is one-shot by Shotzi, though I was risking a crit from Mark Punch there. Bray decides that after the battle is the best time to evolve, and I've beaten Gardenia with no deaths, though that battle did have a couple of tough moments. After easily defeating Jupiter, I obtain an abandoned Porygon named Michaels. Cynthia gifts me a Togepi egg who is named Kenny once he hatches. I catch a Spoink named Bianca and beat Mira easily, and she almost does a Cheryl by bringing a wild Baltoy down to very low health, but I'm able to catch and name them Howdy. Another rival fight, with Dawn this time, and while she has a tougher team in the game, I can beat her despite Metang almost fainting. I'm taking a few risks every now and then, and sooner or later they will catch up to me.
But yeah, if he stays retired, like no one can blame him, and just like for selfish reasons I want him back. Thank you, buddy. Oh dear god.
I had no idea about this Elite Four fight before the third gym, but well, let's see if I can make it past him. Moxley can one-shot the Dustox with Flame Wheel. On Beautifly, I switch to Jericho on an Air Slash and then back to Moxley on a Bug Buzz to allow him to use Fake Out as Flame Wheel isn't a guaranteed one-shot. Venomoth comes in and goes down to a Flame Wheel as well. So far, so good I guess. On the Drapion, I switch to Joe expecting a Cross Poison, but Aaron uses Sword Stance instead, which is very scary. I switch Bray in on a Night Slash, and Drapion causes my second death with a Cross Poison after taking over half his health with a crit wing attack. Mox can then come in and use Fake Out to bring Drapion to low health, but not low enough for Flame Wheel to faint, so I switch Shotzi for another sacrifice. Mox comes back in and can take out the Drapion with Fake Out and Flame Wheel. Oh. Aaron uses a full restore. I have to sack something else now, and unfortunately that falls on Joe, who can get off a Bullet Punch for some chip damage before falling to a Night Slash. I'm still not completely out of the woods yet though. Mox comes back in and can use Fake Out, and now I have to hope that Flame Wheel high rolls, which it does, thankfully. Scizor is one shot by Flame Wheel and I've beaten Aaron, but with 3 deaths. My consolation for this victory is a Skitty named Cat. At least Prawn, who would have been the perfect Aaron counter, evolves into a Doterra now. For the 3rd time in a row, the gym leader is not at the gym, so I have to find Fantina and tell her to do her job. One of her gym trainers does not like this and has a Rotom which hard counters my entire team, especially as Braun hits himself in confusion and then misses Leech Seed. I have to sacrifice Rock now, but it's not the biggest loss in the world. Danielson thankfully outspeeds and can get revenge on Rotom. Fantina time, and this battle has an unexpected sweeper. I lead with Kenny to yawn Drifblim and encore her into Shadow Ball. Wardlow comes in and gets off an agility, but Drifblim wakes up in one turn and hits a nasty Shadow Ball. A couple of Crunches take her out though. Mismagius is next and is a Ghost and Fairy type, so Crunch won't one-shot. I switch to Kenny on a Dazzling Gleam and get off a yawn as Mismagius uses Calm Mind. She's then encored into using Power Gem and falls asleep as I bring in Otis, who has Unaware as an ability. I set up to +6 attack as only 2 crits in a row from Mismagius would have threatened a kill. She gets none and falls to Aqua Jet, as does Gengar. Spiritomb falls to a Crunch, Bennett to an Aqua Jet, and Dusclops to a final Crunch to win an easy 3rd gym with a B-Barrel. Kenny is a monster in this game with Encore, Wish, and Yawn support. I easily beat Barry and catch a Gloom named Boogeyman as Mox evolves into Infernape. Barry now tries to help out in a double battle versus Saturn and Gentleman Backlord, but does nothing of note. I almost lose Jericho due to a confusion from Signal Beam causing a self-hit, but thankfully none of Raichu or Octillery crit. Moxley, Braun, Jericho and Nox all contributed towards that win. I catch an Igglybuff, a Snubbull and a Duskull named John, Steiner and Taker respectively. And then
No, this doesn't. No way. I'm not ready. I haven't even healed, I think. Can we get out of this?
Thankfully, Lucian isn't fighting me and just gives me the TM for Psychic. Bless his kind soul. I then catch an unknown named Warrior, which unknown to me at the time would prove to be quite useful for an important battle later on. I also catch a Pidgeotto named Coker and a Metapod named BPP. Next up, is the fight against Maylene, who is the first gym leader to actually be in her gym when I enter it. Mox leads to fake out her Medicham and then knock her out with a crit Shadow Claw, though the crit didn't matter. Gallade comes in, so I switch to Howdy on a weak send headbutt, then to Kenny on a reflect. I encore Gallade into using Light Screen and yawn him, then switch to Danielson, who can set up freely to +3 attack and speed with Dragon Dances as Gallade keeps sleeping. An Aqua Tail takes him out, and next up is Machamp with Thunder Punch. An Earthquake won't always one-shot here, so I have to go for Aqua Tail and hope it hits. I click on it and it misses as Machamp one-shots with Thunder Punch. That's the biggest loss yet, and I really should have gone for Earthquake because at least Machamp would have been at really low HP if it missed out on the kill. This also throws my plan for the gym into disarray, and I have to adapt well or I risk wiping here. I switch in Howdy to bait payback on Kenny, then use Encore, Wish and Moonblast to take out Machamp and heal back to almost full HP. Toxicroak is in, so I switch to Taker on a Poison Jab, which of course poisons, and Ice Punch does pitiful damage as I get off a Will-O-Wisp, which thankfully connects. Howdy comes back in and can set up a Calm Mind and take her out with Psychic. Lucario is next and survives an Earth Power with a Health Focus Sash. Howdy was dead to a crit there, but I was okay to lose them at that point. A second Earth Power gets the knockout as Maylene just heals. Infernape is last and very scary. I switch to Bailey on a Fire Punch and then slowly bring Infernape down with Confused Ray and Q-Charm activating while staying healthy with Awkwarding and Recover. A final Moonblast takes him out as I win the 4th badge with a heartbreaking death. I catch a Diglett named PCB and a Pelipper named Aska, which unfortunately does not have Drizzle. I guess I was getting too lucky with my abilities. Next up is Pastorius City, and would you know it, the gym leader isn't in town. I do obtain a Lapras called Piper with Water Absorb and a decent attack stat and access to the move Dragon Dance. I also catch a Krogunk named Solo. Unfortunately, there's another death here as I have to sacrifice BBB the Butterfree to an Ace Trainer's Leafeon who has set up to +2 attack in the rain. But he's a Butterfree, so I would need to be paid to care about him at this point in the game. I interrupt a singing Wake who walks backwards towards his gym. Very weird indeed. Parry runs into me for another fight and has a fully evolved team of 6 Pokemon now. I lead with Nox who can one-shot the Staraptor with Thunderbolt. Ricochet comes in on a Body Slam from Snorlax, which of course gets the paralysis and Ricochet remains fully paralyzed. I have to switch, so bring in Moxley on a Body Slam, which thankfully does not get the paralysis. A Fake Out and a Close Combat can take Snorlax out and Empoleon falls to a second Close Combat. Arcanine locks himself into Outrage as I bring in Rowan, who has Drizzle in this game, to tank 2 Outrages and get off a Toxic in return. I send in Nox on a Thunderfang and use Thunderbolt to bring Arcanine down to very low health before he hits himself in confusion and poison damage takes him out. Kenny comes in to take out the Heracross and Boogeyman walls the Breloom and beats him with a couple of sludges as Barry wasted time with Spores. That was a tough battle, but I'm glad I made it out deathless. For Wake, the plan is to use Kenny and Otis to come in clutch once again and help Spice set up a sweep. I lead with Otis on Wake's Quagsire to set up Stealth Rock as he tanks an Earthquake very well. I switch to Kenny and lock Quagsire into Earthquake, then use Yawn followed by Sunny Day and finally bring Spice in, who is now faster than every one of Wake's Pokemon due to the ability Chlorophyll, which boosts his speed under the sun. He sets up Substitute and a Swords Dance, but Quagsire's Encore ends early and he hits an Ice Punch to get rid of the sub. I can one-shot him with Leaf Blade, but after the incoming Gyarados is Intimidate, a Leaf Blade at +1 attack won't get the kill as the sweep is cut short. I switch to Otis on a Dragon Dance, but Unaware allows me to stay in as I use Super Fangs and returns to take out Gyarados. I had to risk a crit at the end, but was okay with sacrificing Otis. He pulled through though, and next up is Poliwrath, who is accidentally encored into Ice Punch by Kenny, but can be put to sleep with Yawn as Kenny tanks 2 Ice Punches. Solo comes in to tank another Ice Punch as Poliwrath falls asleep. I now switch back to Spice, set up a Substitute and a Swords Dance, and can now safely one-shot Poliwrath, Ludicolo, Sharpedo, and Floatzel, with only Wake's Ace outspeeding to get rid of his sub. I won the 5th badge, and that's another deathless gym. Kenny is genuinely my best Pokemon along with Moxley, and surprisingly, Otis has helped beat 2 gyms deathless. Up next is a fight with Ace Trainer Ernest, who leads with the Politoed. I switch in Solo, correctly predicting a Water move, which does nothing due to the ability Dry Skin. What I don't predict is Politoed having Psychic, which cleanly one-shots Solo, who is death number 8. I think that was the game's way of reminding me to not take these random trainer battles lightly. Unfortunately, I lose Nox soon after to a critical hit Flare Blitz from a veteran trainer's Rapidash. I'm not sure if the crit mattered there, but losing Nox is big as they were great against Parry's lead Staraptor. I don't get time to deposit them in the box as Dawn catches up right after and heals our Pokemon, so I'm leading with the back from the dead Nox against her Alakazam. I obviously can't use them, so waste time with a couple of Magnet Rises to allow Alakazam to take them out. Mox can outspeed and take him out with a Fake Out and Fire Punch. The rest of the fight is easy as Braun takes out Vaporeon, Moxley takes out Mamoswine and Clefable, Kenny takes out Doterra and Lopunny while also helping pivot adequately. I think that went well. I catch a Relicanth named Tamina, and up next is the first Cyrus fight and will be Bianca and PCP's debut. Bianca uses Psychic on Crobat, which makes Cyrus switch to Honchkrow. He can then be put to sleep with Kenny as Wardlow takes him out. Magnezone comes in, so I switch to PCP on a Thunder Wave and can use Earthquake to one-shot them. Weavile is next, but Ricochet can beat him with Fake Out and Mark Punch. Crobat is back out and delays the inevitable by putting Bianca to sleep. I'm prepared for that though, as Bianca has Sleep Talk and nails Psychic to beat Cyrus. I catch a Magnemite named Saya and a Krabby named Rhea. I then lose Gooker to an Ace Trainer's Gastrodon using Mirror Coat after an Air Slash, which is really annoying because I didn't know that Gastrodon learned that move. There's now another stupid death during a double battle as I use Fly with Asuka on a Politoed, which falls to Jericho's Crunch anyway while Asuka is still in the air. Swimmer Eric then decides to send out a Lantern who barely survives Crunch and Fly and then one-shots Asuka with Thunderbolt with me having no way of preventing that death. At least she wasn't a Drizzlemon. I now catch a Mantike named Brett and a Clamperl named Mick. Another fight with Barry and we win with no real issues. I get ready to challenge Byron and guess what? He isn't at the gym! I catch a Scorpy named Broski from the Safari Zone and up next is a fight with Riley. He leads with an Absol who can be taken out with Moxley. Salamence is then put to sleep with Kenny and is taken out by Zaya. Lucario comes in, so I protect on a high jump kick, then switch to Mercy on the second as Riley heals after a Shadow Sneak. I switch to Zaya on a Meteor Mash and do the same protect switch combo so Lucario can take himself out. Metagross comes in and I switch to Jericho on an Agility. In hindsight, I should have used Will-O-Wisp there. Jericho takes a nasty Meteor Mash while doing pitiful damage with Crunch in return. I switch to Moxley on another Meteor Mash, but Metagross gets the 20% attack boost. I use Fake Out and get ready to take them out with Fire Punch, but thankfully remember that they had just used Agility. I'm staring down a +1 attack and +2 speed Metagross and I'm terrified. I switch to Wardlow on a Zen Headbutt and for some reason Intimidate goes off despite my doc saying that Metagross has Clear Body, which I assume is a glitch or some error with the docs. A Crunch can take them out as Wardlow takes decent damage from an Earthquake. Ursaring comes in and I switch to Kenny on a close combat. I use Encore but Ursaring protects, so I Encore it into using that instead and can eventually take him out with an Air Slash. Slaking comes in but isn't an issue with Protect, so Kenny can take him out too. I'm not sure how I made it out of that deathless, but I'm just glad that I did. I catch a Lairon named Jade and I'm ready to face Byron. Moxley leads to set up Stealth Rock as Bronzong uses Reflect. A couple of Brick Breaks and a Flamethrower can take them out and from now it's a Moxley sweep as he uses Flamethrowers in close combats to one-shot Steelix, Aggron, Fortress, Magnezone and Pastorius. I won't lie, that was the easiest fight yet. And I'd like to thank r/Durbell2222 on Reddit for that strategy. Next up is a fight with Commander Saturn and I just realized that their names are based on planets because they're Team Galactic. Look, I had only done a playthrough of a Gen 4 game like once before this one, that too over 10 years ago. Also, you'll notice Nikki in the overlay and that's because she was needed for Fly. Only Kenny and Brett were my potential Fly users at this point and I didn't want to teach the move to Kenny due to the hassle of having to forget it every time I had a major fight. Also, Brett can't learn Fly and evolving him requires finding a Remoraid, so I thought I'd just use the dead Gooker instead. Back to the fight, and as you've seen, I used Howdy to take out Alakazam with the substitute up after getting off 3 Calm Minds. Octillery is almost one shot with Earth Power and takes out the substitute with Seed Bomb. A second Earth Power takes her out as Bronzong comes in. I use a Shadow Ball to do great damage, but get greedy and try to set up a substitute instead of going for the knockout, but Bronzong explodes to get rid of it. Rhydon is one shot with Earth Power. Toxicroak is last and deals some tip damage with Fake Out. I expect a Sucker Punch here, so decide to go for Substitute, but Toxicroak uses Gunk Shot, which gets the poison as Substitute fails and Howdy is left on 7 HP. I switch in Jericho, but Saturn cheats and uses Cross Chop. I know it was a random move, but come on. Thankfully, it doesn't crit, so I protect to give myself extra time to think. I realize that I can PP stall the Cross Chops as the move only has 5 PP and 2 are already done. So,
I mean, unless the logic is, okay, so that's 2 Cross Chops, right? That's 3. Wait, what? We didn't have Sturdy? We did! Oh no, it's Gen 4 Sturdy! No! It's Gen 4 Sturdy! It's so shit! Oh my god!
I feel like every Nuzlocker at some point is obligated to forget about how Sturdy used to work and how it was awful. Well, at the very least, through Zaya's inadvertent sacrifice, I can switch in Moxley. Only to realize that I hadn't updated his moveset since the Byron fight, and a Fire Punch does not get a guaranteed knockout here. So, I switch to Howdy for a second sacrifice and for some Life Orb chip. I then switch in Brawn to take him out with Earthquake. Those are big losses, especially Zaya, whom I rate very highly in Nuzlocks. The Mars fight is much easier as Jade, who has evolved into an Aggron now, does a bulk of the heavy lifting to defeat her with no real issues. During a fight with Ace Trainer Olivia, I switch in Broski on her Blissey, who does a massive chunk with Hyper Voice. For some reason, instead of just knocking her out, I get scared and switch to Taker, who gets a burn but can't hit her in return. So, expecting another flamethrower, I switch to Wardlow, who is one shot with a critical hit Thunderbolt. That sucks. Losing my only Intimidate Mon is really bad, that too to a Blissey. What's worse is, I end up using Taker to take her out anyway, using Confuse Ray, which makes Wardlow's death seem like it was for nothing. I walk towards the Snow Point gym and... At least the game is self-aware, and the gym friend, guide, person mentions that the gym leaders are a busy bunch. I need to retrieve Candace from the Snow Point temple, but 2 random Ace trainers are blocking the way. I have to beat them to be allowed in, and this battle could be tough because I don't know their Pokemon's movesets. I lead Jade and Kenny as they lead with Blissey and Heracross. I protect with Jade and use Air Slash on Heracross as Blissey just uses Light Screen. I then switch to Rowan, assuming a fire move from the Typhlosion on Jade, who uses Earth Power instead, which is still easily handled. I also encore Blissey into Light Screen. From here, the fight is simple enough, with Rowan getting rid of Typhlosion, and some pivoting between Taker and Kenny allows Rowan to take out Tyranitar too, as Blissey falls to poison damage. Up next is Meganium, and Broski can come in and take him out too. Last is for Alligator, but Kenny puts him to sleep and Rowan finishes him off. So, I'm 6 gym badges in, and with only 14 deaths, things are really looking up for this attempt of the run. Can I win it? Well, as is customary now for my ROM hack Nuzlocks, I'll cover that in part 2 of the video, as this one's gone long enough. If you watched until now, I hope you've enjoyed and request you to please leave a like and a subscribe so that I know you're interested in watching attempt 2. If you disagreed with any plays or think that my hate for parry is unwarranted, which it really isn't, let me know in the comments. I'd also recommend that you check out the other Nuzlocks on my channel already, for Pokemon Inclement Emerald and the Pokemon Fire Red Monologues with Poison and Flying types only, respectively. Thanks for watching, see ya!